Welcome to Artists in Residences, the Westport Library's virtual artist series. I'm Carol Ergerfass, and I am an exhibit curator at the library. Today, Miggs Burrows takes us to the studio of Norm Siegel. When we first approached Norm about doing a studio tour, he politely refused, saying there was no way that the three of us would fit inside. But lucky for us, we are virtual, and so we all get to see this great space of his that's filled wall to wall with cans of brushes, finished and unfinished canvases, and all the tools of the trade that he uses to create his photorealistic paintings that actually make people do a double take when they see them on the wall. Inspired by a school trip to the Metropolitan Museum as a kid, Norm always knew what he wanted to do. He went on to study art at Cooper Union and then served in the military, and eventually landed in advertising. After working as an art director in a couple of Mad Men agencies, he broke out on his own and was able to take up painting again. Norm literally draws his inspiration from the many parts of his life that he loves, like 3D comics and movies, which led him to create a series of 3D paintings. Lunch with his friends led him to a series called You Are What You Eat. And his interest in aviation led him to join the American Society of Aviation Artists and also the Air Force Art Program, where his paintings now have landed in the Pentagon and the Air and Space Museum. He's also created a new genre called coffee table book paintings of famous rare book editions, and they are so realistic that people actually try to turn the pages. So let's join Miggs and Norm and hear some more about this fascinating work.
Well, thanks so much, Carol. Our guest today is Norm Siegel, and these glasses will make sense in a few minutes, but Norm is an incredibly versatile artist, member of the Artist Collective of Westport, known for his photorealism, and I'll take these off now. He's all flattened out. So welcome, Norm. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Well, I appreciate the honor of being with you people.
Yeah, so you've got quite an amazing career. Went to Cooper Union. I mean, you said the big emphasis then was on abstract expressionism, and like you were just kind of like the odd guy out, like this realism thing didn't fly there? Why?
Well, yeah, there were, in fact, Scott Richter, who I don't know if he's still a member of the collective,
Yeah.
was a teacher after I got out of Cooper Union. Yeah, everybody was into abstract expressionism, and I'm doing Renaissance glazing, and which was like very, very difficult. But I did have a teacher who sort of encouraged me. His name is Sidney Delavante, and he was a little pixie of a guy, and he did like very Paul Clayish paintings. And he said, you know, like, do it, keep on doing what you're doing, and don't be influenced by everybody else. But I was influenced, you know, when you're younger, you peer groups are painting all kinds of stuff. And I had an incredible class. Tom Wesselman was in my class, and, you know, Lenny Fry. And it was like, so I did abstract art too. And by God, it was easy for me to do, but I didn't have any satisfaction doing it.
Yeah, you say in your, if people want to go to the Artists Collective of Westport.org, you can read, you can see all our members and Norm's bio. But in it, you said you had a need to paint in the Trompe l'oeil style. Where do you think that need came from?
Well, it started as I put my bio, and everybody who asked me, because everybody tries to give a reason. You're asked questions, and you have to try and figure out, well, this sort of makes sense. This is my reason for being. But it was a school trip when I was in the 6th grade to the Metropolitan. And we were going, and they rushed us past all the nude paintings by Rubens. So, you know, because we were so young, you shouldn't see that. We were in the American wing, and there was these great, incredible landscapes. And, you know, I was really like blown away. And then against the wall, I thought there was a little diorama built into the wall of subjects, and it was a Harnett painting.
Mm-hmm.
And it just blew me away because I thought it was real.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I gotta believe that's the trigger that started me doing this. I can't swear to it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we all have to, kind of make up stories
That's a reason for why we're here.
to fit the question. Right. Well, let's get into it. First of all, I just want to take a look, since you can't really move your computer around. We're going to look at some images of your studio so people get a sense.
I brought some stuff in my little prison cell here of trompe l'oeil and things that I've
good.
done. But,
well, I'll just share about 4 or 5 pictures of your studio so we can just get a sense of your workspace here.
That's not my studio, it's my dining room.
That's your dining room. My back hurts just looking at this picture. I mean, I can't.
My back is still hurting.
You don't work on an easel, or?
No, what had happened is when I started to paint, because I was really basically in advertising after I got out of Cooper, because when I started painting, it's very interesting. I was doing science fiction covers. And I was working alone, and when you're young and alone, you get really like crazed. So I decided I needed people around me, and I went into advertising, and I became quite successful in advertising. And I just painted as a hobby after.
Oh.
But as you go older, the advertising business doesn't look kindly towards you. But thank God the computer was my friend, because the computer didn't reveal how old I was to my clients. And so I still do work. And I started painting more and more as the older I got. And after many business failures, I decided to paint again, but I had no room because we had to buy a house real quick because I sold my house in Jersey. And so I took this little kid's room and made it my studio, which is like hysterically small. And I love to see Sherry Wolfgang try and paint this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's interesting. It's kind of the irony of the creating incredible clarity out of clutter. I mean, you doesn't look overly chaotic there, but is there a satisfaction in that? You're in this kind of,
I think I told Carol, there was a saying in my office, even when I was in advertising, it was cluttered, saying that a neat stall is a sign of a dead horse.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And, I literally, my paints are all askew. When I'm looking for a color, I have to go through the tubes. I almost like the exercise of doing it, because I've been in studios that are so organized, it drives me nuts.
Yeah, they're antiseptic. I know. I can't. It doesn't feel like I'm in an artist. Like an artist doesn't live here.
Just way too organized. Even my desktop, if I wanted to go through everything I bookmarked, I've seen it where it's lined up and beautiful. It takes me 10 minutes to find anything.
So do you want to? We have slides of your work, but do you have any you want to show? Hold up.
Well, yeah. When you talk about trompe l'oeil, this is something I did, which I really.
And what is trompe l'oeil? It's French.
Deceive the eye or fool the eye.
Fool the eye. Okay.
Yeah, and this is called blank canvas with Rococo frame.
Oh my God! And that's a
paint. Frame is the painting.
Turn it sideways so we can see it's not dimensional. Look at that. Oh my God. Yeah, that's crazy.
And I like painting on the side.
Oh yeah. Oh my.
And people go up to it, and you have a slide of my, the back of the canvas.
Yeah.
That, I like the joke, if you will.
Yeah, no, your humor plays a big part in your role, or kind of a wit. I don't know if it's even.
And I'll tell you what reinforced it, if you don't mind a couple of minutes. When I was in high school, which was the High School of Industrial Arts, which became art and design, when it joined with the music and art, I did a little painting of just pieces of fabric. And my father was in a very, very high end. He worked in the high end linens and worsted show place where the tailors like Cassini and all the big designers would come and choose materials and, for the clothing on Fifth Avenue. And so I had pieces of this incredible fabric and I painted them in watercolor. And when it was on display, I loved that people going over trying to pick the fabric
Oh man.
off the paper. And that, I
That's,
guess that's a sense of humor. And it's like, what you do with the lenticular, when people see something and then it changes the image totally. And I kind of like that. Maybe it's a little
no, it's,
cynical of me,
it's
but I like the fun.
yeah, it's got to be satisfying that people so engaged that they're, it's other than looking, oh, that's a pretty boat on the water, or that's a nice sunset. I mean, that they actually reach out. They want to. I had my hand slapped once in the which museum it was a Vermeer or something, and it was totally involuntary. I reached out to touch the can, and the guard got within quarter of an inch of touching this precious canvas. A guard tackled me and pushed me away. I mean, I was reaching I had to touch the surface, but it didn't happen.
It's quite amazing, the technique, but that's part of the joke. And I guess it's advertising, life that I've had, that it's, I have to have a concept before I do the painting.
Right.
I notice if you're an abstract artist, the process of being an abstract artist is the concept.
Mm-hmm.
They just go in and they investigate, and I appreciate that. But before I do anything, I have to have that concept in my head. And to me, the picture is the picture, and the title is the headline.
Mm-hmm. No, nice.
And that's why I said, blank canvas with Rococo frame.
Yeah. Well, I should show I'd like to show the other one that you submitted. I'm going to share the screen again so we can see a few more things here. But this is the one, the collective had what we call the 12 by 12 show.
Right.
And this was your, and it's got a little 12 by 12. I mean, you can see my cursor, but up here, 12 by 12 sort of burned into the wood, into the stretchers, and everything, the wires, the shadows, the staples, the texture of the canvas, the grain of the wood. I mean, it's so, people were reaching out and people were turning it. Well, I saw them when they were hanging the show from 2 feet away. The impulse was, well, why somebody actually said somebody hung Norm's picture backwards.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it was sold and it had the red circle, and I thought it was turned backwards because it was sold.
Yeah. It's so great. Let's go through a few quick. This is what's amazing too is, some people either do portraits, but they can't do other realistic, more geometric surfaces and things. Anyway, you've mastered both. This is you and your wife, and this is in front of the Salmagundi Club.
Right. I had a piece in the Salmagundi show, and it was in August, and it was really hot, and so we went to sit out on the stoop, and I just happened to take a selfie. And what happened was the light meter was reading the little that sconce that's hanging the chandelier.
Oh yeah.
So for daylight, you got that bluish tinge. And I decided to leave it that way, and I painted. Of course, my wife was complaining that all the things were showing. But she's a good sport and realistic. And I painted that. And then it was in the show the following year.
That's, again, the mastery of different things. Some people are good at, flesh and bones and hair but the architecture details. Here's another one. This is my neighbor, Tony Angotti, who you worked with, right, in the business? Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, and he's sitting with Jim Peretti, who was an art director when I worked with him at Scally, McCabe, and Sloves, and he became a TV commercial director, and we were good friends. And we would have lunch at least once a month, And Tony, as you know, is so animated with the thoughts. And I just had to take the picture, and we were at, I forgot the Chinese restaurant. It's on the borderline of Southport and, Westport.
Yeah. Yeah, I know which one you mean. Yeah, just well, and then here's everybody's. Here's
Well,
Nina.
this is part of the series that I did of You Are Where You Eat. And I did a whole bunch of pictures. In fact, I have one of my business partner, who's my copywriter, to get details. This is,
Steve Lance, right?
you got it.
Yeah. Look at that. Yeah, no, yeah, wow. So that was a series of that was just something you came up with. You are
It
with
started when I took the picture of him, because he was really munching into that burger. We were at the bar, Dunville's?
Was it Dunville's?
Dunville's, yeah. We were
Yeah.
at Dunville's, and he was really going through that. And that got me thinking of doing a whole series of You Are Where You Eat. And I did, Nina. I did a whole bunch of people. I did Steve Parton.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, which I kind of like. I could do one of you if you want to have lunch with me, Migs.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks.
It won't be as good as Colenso's picture.
A mouthful of bean sprouts. No, you guys. Well, speaking of Steve Lance briefly, and again in your bio, you said, this teasing, among my failures, ask me about the $2 million baseball cap. So I'm asking.
Yeah, well, Steve was also a ghostwriter doing several books. It was got Adrian Sackheim lived in Westport, and he's the publisher of Penguin Portfolio Books. And he had asked Steve if he wanted to write a ghostwriter book for Christos Katsakis. I don't know if you know the name.
No.
This happens to be the founder and CEO of E-Trade.
Oh.
All right. So Steve started writing the book, and they became very, very good friends. And Katsakis was kicked out of E-Trade and, given that multi-million-dollar parachute. And after the book was done, it was quite successful. He had asked Steve that you want to go into a business venture with me, and Steve said yes. And naturally, Steve dragged me in, and it was to start a website. And it was like, at the time, I think MySpace was just starting. This is many years ago. So speaking of my financial investments that I told you I screwed up on. So I was in business with Christos Katsakis for a year. Me, little Normie from the Bronx, and the founder of E-Trade. And drinking Louis XIII cognac and smoking Cohiba cigars in Palm Beach. Steve moved down to Palm Beach, and a lot of people that we knew here were involved. And it was just, he delayed, and then Facebook came in and everything came in. And so I lost all that money.
Oh.
But I have the hat.
That's okay. That's where the hat comes in.
Yeah, I have
the
baseball cap and a shirt. With the name of. It started out as a site called Money and Living, which was going to be an investment, buying, and what to buy site, and then it became, for some reason, the people that had it down there, Moli, M-O-L-I, which I never liked. And I was commuting between New Jersey, when I lived in Jersey, and Florida.
Well, who could blame you? I mean, he wasn't some street hustler trying to get you to buy, Streetcard Monte.
That's why I have this gigantic studio now with all the money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, whatever. Well,
let me look at a few other things here, because there's so much. So that's Nina. We talked about Nina Bentley, our beloved member and friend. Then you do another series of things, which are, again, you have to put your nose up to get. So this is a painting for anyone who doesn't. This is a complete painting. The label, the wear and tear, the fraying, the typography.
Well, the actual cover of Life magazine on that February 6th. I was in the Army, and my closest friend was the guy on the cover.
Oh.
the guy who's laying down with the can in his hand and his
Yeah.
head. His name is Harrison C.B. Bell, Sergeant Bell, and I was in an instructor battalion, a company, and he wanted me to stay in because we were such good friends. He was in Korea. He loved combat. He was a brilliant guy, read Kunter Grass in the original German, Hemingway. He loved combat. And he wanted to go to Vietnam in the worst way. We were training guys to go to Vietnam. And I said, no, Harry, I want to go back to advertising. And Harry stayed in, I got out. And about a year after I got out, I had been married, and I would get Life magazine. And as soon as that magazine came, I said, oh my God, it's Harry. I recognized him immediately.
Wow. I mean,
And the photograph was taken by a French war photographer named Henri Huet, who unfortunately was killed in a helicopter crash in Cambodia. And it's crazy because when I was working in advertising, I worked with a guy who was very good friends with Errol Flynn's son, Sean. And I had met Sean, and he died in Vietnam about the same time that Henry died.
Oh.
In the war. And the title of the painting is called It Could Have Been Me. And it could have been me because had I said, okay, Harry, I'm going to stay in, it would have been over. We were taking training in what's called the helicopter air cavalry. And Harry got hit in the head. He survived. And I wrote a couple of letters to Life magazine, which they printed. Letters to the editor.
Well, of course, the other
Harry. Yeah.
supreme irony is that the magazine is called Life. You know,
Yeah.
there's two people on the brink of it. This is again it's a book or a puzzle. What?
It's a full book. It's an actual cover of a Jules Verne book, which I had a show at the Newton Rue Gallery, which I sold a number of my books.
Oh yeah.
That I had. In fact, I'll show you one that was at Salmagundi. Which will go to the used bookshop.
Oh, good. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's right. When we're doing the exhibit, should mention, yeah, the library has a used bookshop on Jessup Green.
My three-dimensional book.
Oh, wow.
Complete with the pages on the side.
Oh my, look at that. Jeez.
And because I was told by my teacher, Sidney Delavanti, that I'd be a terrific forger before I got arrested. This is my forgery of NCY.
Oh. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
It's one of my better forgeries.
Yeah. Have you ever done a painting of a passport or anything like that? That you really could? I guess you could really be.
I could if I wanted to.
Yeah.
In fact, I was going to do a dollar bill, but do it like 5 feet.
Oh, yeah.
To do it, but then I get sidetracked by it. So, you know.
Let me do a quick run through because we got this a lot to look at here. So let's see. Where did we leave off? Or lost my place here. Well, anyway, this great the story behind the guy who bought this painting.
Yeah,
right?
well, who you know, Richard Actus Grande.
Yeah.
Usually when you have the meetings at the collective, you know, you bring in a piece of art to show, you lay it around against the wall. And I had done this painting only because I sort of remembered that fabric painting I did. And I sort of had this idea to do it with the real ties. And I went to the Goodwill store and I bought some Art Deco ties. And I bought some old classic World War II type of ties and ties that I had. And I painted it, and it took me about 4 months. And I brought it in. And at that time, Nina had introduced me to Richard. She thought he and I would be good friends, which she the matchmaker that she is.
Yeah.
She's right, because I was involved in the Air Force Art program, and Richard was a Sabre jet pilot in Korea. So we had a lot to talk about. And I put the painting against the wall, the ties were laid out, and he just came over to me, we had just met, and says, "Is that for sale?" And I said, "Yeah, how much?" And I had to come up with a number. It was a rather high number, and he said, "Let me think about it." He came back to me about 15 minutes later and says, "I want to buy it." So since, Richard was a little bit shaky on his feet and walked with a cane, he said, "You better let me hang it for you." And so the next day I went out to his condo and picked a spot on the wall, and I put the picture hook in there. And as he was holding it, he said, "Oh my God, they're painted." He didn't know that the ties within the frame were painted.
So, and the real ties hang below, right?
Real ties hang below.
Which is, and I've seen it in person. It's just phenomenal because you don't know where one begins and the other leaves off. It's just, it's really a.
Well, that was the whole point.
Yeah.
And but the fact that Richard spent as much money as he did,
thinking
it was just ties, I just found phenomenal. And I refused to sell him any more paintings. And he actually bought another painting of mine, which is at the Grand Palais Paris Air Show. But I didn't know he had painted it. It was in the Fairfield Library. And he bought it behind my back. And a couple of 3D paintings he wanted to buy, and I just refused to sell it.
That's funny. Well, speaking of your 3D, now that's why I wore these glasses. This really works.
He wanted to buy.
This, oh, is it? Well, this, I mean, I've got the pair of these glasses from, I don't know, maybe I stole them from one of your exhibits.
Well, I used to have them. In fact, I love them.
Yeah, but it is phenomenal. And that's paint, I know it's a photographic process, but you worked it out to be able to paint, separate the things into blue and red.
Yeah, what I did do there, if you go online, they tell you how to take 3D photographs with a regular camera. They do have stereo cameras. A friend of mine, who's an artist, actually has a Kodak stereo realist and does 3D painting. But I have a little Sony Sure Shot, and what I do is on a tripod, take a picture, and then move it 2.5 inches, which is what the eyeball to eyeball is, and then take another picture. And then in Photoshop, I play with the filters to get the red and the blue, the cyan. And these are called anaglyphs.
Anaglyphs.
And the French actually invented the whole 3D process. I think the Germans first, and where they used purple and yellow. And then I think in 1860, the French did it with the cyan and magenta. And there's a whole book of 3D photographs taken by the French in the 1860s, which are really quite amazing.
When I grew up, my father had a stereopticon, which is one of those early 19th century things, and you put in the cards. And I was fascinated with 3D because I keep taking the glasses off and go, how could that be? I'm looking at two flat things and they come alive, when you put them in this. And again,
when I was growing up, I was always fascinated because when they had the movies and any kind of media was always an attraction to me. They had this movie, Buona Devil and the House of Wax, the 3D movies. And in Buona Devil, I think it was Robert, the actor's name, but they actually throw a spear at the audience.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff. Wow. And I was always impressed with it. And I always thought, I wonder if you could do a 3D painting. And this was just an exercise to see if I could do it. I didn't expect people to hang it up on their wall.
No, but it's,
to do it. And I did it only for shows. And I kind of got into it. I did about 5 or 6 paintings. And this is the Nutcracker, the antique Nutcracker. This is a little thing that my first wife had from England. and I just took photographs. And you have to experiment with how you move the camera, how far back,
Hmm.
and you have to take like 20 or 30 photographs till you get the right pair that will give you the effect. And
Well,
then I put the walnuts in front too.
yeah, and even your
Which-
signatures in 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got a few minutes left, so I want to flip through a few quickly. But and even without the 3D, here's one of, I think, one of your most ambitious.
Yeah, this I had done when I was with the American Society of Aviation Artists, which I'm still a member. This one I did because I've been in the Grand Palais, and it's really a phenomenal space. And to realize I've been to like the Paris Air Show and a few air shows, and this was the very first one. And it was right after Louis Blériot had flown across the English Channel.
Hmm.
And
That's
yeah,
just the
it
detail.
was
Just the
a year
detail.
and a half. It took me a year and a half on and off between other commissions and things I was doing.
So
But-
yeah.
And I investigated. I have a friend of mine who's in the French Air Force, Vincent Meslay, who gave me because the title is in French, and I'm not going to try and get through it. And he got me a lot of information, photographs taken at the time at the museum. And that's what I did. It's the first one where they actually, if you see the electric lights hanging down, it's the first time it was lit by electric lighting.
Mm. Well,
Yeah.
again, the detail, the architecture, there's people, there's structures, there's wires, there's glass, there's anyway, it's fun. I'm going to wait
Yeah,
to
and
quickly.
Richard Actis Grande bought it.
Oh, did he? Oh,
Yeah, and I didn't want it. It was
Didn't-
on in the Fairfield Library, and they just came over to me and said, somebody just bought your painting. I said, who? And it was Richard.
so
Because I refused to sell it to him.
it's not did an end run around you. So let me, I don't know if we'll have time for all the stories, but this is beautiful. Again, just a leather, you want to reach out and just touch.
Well, this is because of the Harnett painting.
Mm,
He did a series of paintings called After the Hunt, where it's a dead, duck,
oh yeah, sure.
gun, and stuff like this. And this was an update that I did when I was in the Air Force Art program. And I had a bomber pilot when I was at the Air Force Art Museum in Dayton, Ohio. He was a bomber pilot in a wheelchair who flew B-17s in World War II, said there's got to be a mistake in here. Because I researched it, I did everything. First he said, Lucky Strikes, it was red and green. The packs were red and green. I said, no. I said, Raymond Loewy was asked to redesign the packs because they were trying to save money on the ink, because it was petroleum ink. So he made a white pack. And I said, that came out in 1943. Oh, he says, but I know there's a mistake in here. And my wife and I went to, we went to the banquet, and the guy was out there. He was still looking. He says, I found your mistake.
Yeah, what was it?
If you see the letter above the Life magazine,
Yeah.
the return address has a zip code.
Oh, zip code that didn't exist then.
They
That's
use
interesting.
zone numbers, a 2-letter zone number. And instead of me trying to correct it, I left it in there. Hubris would dictate changing it, but I said no.
Well, I just noticed, and that's maybe not, is that the Life magazine is dated 20 years to the day before Kennedy's assassination, November 22nd.
I actually have the original magazine. No. This was the magazine.
And that was the real date on it, November 22nd. So it just happened to be literally 20 years to the day before the assassination. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Well, Norm, there's so much we could go on for at least another 20 seconds. No, 20 hours. But, no, this is phenomenal. Norm Siegel, you can just keep your ears and eyes out for his work wherever it may appear. And yeah, want to plug the bookstore. Your work beginning in March will be at the Westport's new, I think they're just calling it the Westport Bookstore on Jessup Green, which is sort of an extension of the library, selling used books. And the Drew Friedman Community Arts Center has kind of donated a wall there, or they've given them a wall that I'm curating of art to change every month. Nina Bentley was the first artist, and Norm will be the second one. And you'll see his work in person there. And it's a great bookshop. It's the first used bookshop in Westport, I think.
And I'll have 4 books.
Yeah, four of your Trump Loy. Thanks so much, Norm. I'm going to hand it back to Carol. Want to go off with this great image, your most recent image called The Scream, with you and the ubiquitous mask. Carol?
Thanks, Norm, for allowing us to see inside your studio today and hear some of the backstory about your really amazing work. For more information about the library, check out the library's website, westportlibrary.org. And to see more of our Artists in Residences videos, go to the library's YouTube page, Westport Pub Lib, and search for Artists in Residences. Thanks, and hope to see you back at the library again soon.